want you to kill the Jewish mafia boss Sharim Gideon. I despise him. Cutting him into pieces is too good for him, but he is a devout Jew. Send him off to the next world after his early morning prayers. Please, come in. Here's your payment of $100,000 for the Sharim Gideon job. I must say your sudden request for cash, instead of the usual deposit into your Swiss bank account, turned out to create quite an ordeal for me. I had to scramble to gather this amount of cash. My accounts, including my secret ones, were all frozen almost immediately after I received your request. It looks like some formidable figure is after you. I believe it's David Carlisle, head of the world's largest family combine, the Carlisle family. Let me warn you, even you don't want him as an enemy. I'm certain it's him. You should go into hiding. David Carlisle is the only man capable of ordering a complete freeze on my assets worth over $100 million. No one in Europe has that kind of power.
My secret accounts were also frozen. I wonder why he didn't tamper with the cash I used to do the job. I wouldn't have been able to carry out my assignment otherwise.
So that's what's going on. Carlisle wants to own you. This was just to display his power. If he wanted to, he wouldn't have given you any leeway. So that's what's going on.
You said there's no one in Europe equal to Carlisle. But what about the Empire of Rothschild? I thought the Rothschilds succeeded in dominating the entire European continent 200 years ago.
They've given way to Carlisle. The EC and the rest of Europe is being divvied up between the two families, but Carlisle's calling the shots. The Carlisle estate is reputed to be worth $600 billion. Of course, it's common knowledge that the actual amount would have to be far more than 100 times that amount. He owns 6 out of 10 major U.S. firms, 6 out of 10 major stock companies, 6 out of 10 major banks. GM, Ford, Chrysler, GE, IBM, Exxon, Texaco, Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, Prudential, First National City Bank, Chase Manhattan Bank, and so on. Over 1,000 multinational corporations are in turn owned by these major corporations. In other words, Carlyle owns almost all the most powerful corporations in the world. Do you see now, Mr. Togo? To make Carlyle your enemy is tantamount to making an enemy out of the world. Listen to me. Don't antagonize Carlyle. As you can tell from last year's IBM spy incident, Carlyle has managed to move in on Japan, the last superpower beyond his reach. Using the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI at will, he's gaining control over there. It's a historical fact that the Carlyles supplied the Red Army with an immense amount of money. Which proves that the present Soviet government was already under Carlyle's control from the very moment it came into existence. It's not that long ago that he got rid of his arch nemesis, Nixon, the Watergate scandal.
So you're saying that this Carlyle who's got the US, the Communist Bloc, the EC, the Middle East, and Japan at his fingertips has no opponents left in the world?
Quite the contrary. As I said before, the only one who continues to pose a threat to Carlyle is you, Golgo13. In order to accomplish his grand scheme for world domination, his general policy is to force his opponents into submission. But if that doesn't prove effective, he tries to win them over by courting them as partners. Hold on. There's one opponent Carlyle can't touch.
Which is?
China.
Didn't Carlyle himself visit Beijing several times? I thought he was providing the Chinese military with an immense supply of trucks. Isn't that true?
It's true that he has good relations with the Beijing government, but the real power of the Chinese resides not with those who live on the mainland, but with those who live overseas. It's quite clear that it's the overseas Chinese more than the Beijing government that Carlyle is worried about. Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong were owned from the very beginning by the overseas Chinese. But now, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Burma, and Thailand are all also virtually under their economic grip. Carlyle has already been maneuvering against them, but things aren't going so smoothly. Even Carlyle is having trouble dealing with the overseas Chinese. As opposed to the Russians and the Japanese who have managed to assimilate Western culture, Overseas Chinese refuse to give up their unique customs and traditions no matter where they are. Like you, they pose a threat to Carlyle. The elder of the Wang family, Wang Jiansun, is the head of these non-mainland Chinese. I haven't heard anything about him recently, but I do know that he is the leader of tens of millions of overseas Chinese.
Wang Jiansun.
I'm gonna say it again. Don't make Carlyle your enemy.